From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight as we break down the Broncos' final regular season game of the 2022 season as they beat the LA Chargers 31-28. They finished the season 5-12, Benjamin, and I guess there's a little bit of optimism based on the fact that, hey, the Chargers played their starters, especially on the offensive side of the ball, some of into the fourth quarter. So this wasn't like playing the backups for the Chargers the entire time. The Broncos scored over 30 points for the first time in the season. They also didn't get swept in division. There's all sorts of positives, I think. And then the fact remains that they weren't really playing for a specific draft pick, for their own draft pick at the top of the draft. So we don't have to worry about all the people out there saying, oh, well, they could have had a top 4 pick instead of number 5, which, of course, is now going to Seattle. But big picture, what did you take away from the game?
I think there's a blueprint to making Russell Wilson successful with the Denver Broncos. I think we've seen it from what Justin Otten and Jerry Rosberg have laid out, and that is strong, effective running of the football and playing deep and outside the numbers. And look what we saw out of Jerry Jeudy, just a monster game, deep and outside the numbers. I think they played to Russ's strengths. I think they went back to the drawing board on what made Russell Wilson successful in Seattle. They just started replicating that over the last couple of weeks, and man, it looked good. It's weird how that works.
Weird.
So I think that I think there's a blueprint going forward for air quotes fixing Russell Wilson. I think part of it was Nathaniel Hackett. I think Nathaniel Hackett was insisting, and to a degree, Clint Kubiak were insisting on running things that Russell Wilson isn't really good at, and I think that coaching, what makes a good coach is somebody who maximizes their players. And I think the staff here over the last couple of weeks has finally hit on what it is that Russ does well. Let's just do that.
Yeah, tip of the cap to Justin Outen. If it sort of feels like up into the last couple of weeks, most of the conversation, at least around town, was, okay, Justin Outen isn't calling plays. He's helping sort of design some of the game day stuff, but you didn't really see the specific fingerprint he had on the offense as the offensive coordinator. And here he is in 2 games showing quite a bit of competency on the offensive side of the ball. And again, you had 2 of your better performances overall. So little tip of the cap to him. But I think you're right on. I mean, he had 36 rushing attempts, 24 passing attempts in a game that was contested. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, historically this season, even when it's a close game, they're just chucking the ball over and over and over again. We were doing those studies earlier in the year when they would be they'd be within 1 score. And yet they'd come out of halftime and they'd throw it like 13 straight times and they'd go 3 and out. And it just kept happening. Mm-hmm. Here they were able to lean on the run, a physical running style with Latavius Murray. He rushed for over 100 yards, which was great. But yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is something where you're talking about a blueprint to not only win for the regular season, but this will also help you going into a postseason run if you can make it next year.
And I think the other part of this is putting yourself in second and third and manageable allows Russell Wilson to take advantage with his legs still. He is still a threat with his legs. He might not be as fast as he used to be, and if he took a couple pounds off, he might get back there. But it allowed. We saw it. He was able to pick things up with his legs because you were in manageable situations. When you're in 3rd and 19, Russell Wilson's not going to take off. There's no point. But when you're in 3rd and 4, Russell Wilson all of a sudden has the threat of his legs on 3rd down, and that changes the way you defend him, and it changes the way you cover people. It's going to leave more people open because they have to account for the fact that he might scramble, and it will make this offense better.
And you also got to see through play action, right? Second half, they had 3 completions of over 50 yards. So there's more to it than just, well, we're only trying to gain a few yards here, and we're talking about EPA per play and how the run game. Yeah, I love your eye roll. Mm-hmm. And how the rushing attack sometimes is a low EPA kind of play. But the fact remains, again, you're talking about what it does for the rest of the offense, what it does for the defense who has to now pay attention to that and give respect to the fact that you might be running it. So then you open up some deeper shots downfield. They had 3 completions in the second half, over 50 yards. I want to talk a little bit about Jerry Jeudy, who finished 28 yards short of 1,000. And the fact is, let's just say it like this. Jerry Jeudy has really cemented, I think, for a lot of people, what we thought he could be all along in these final games.
Yeah, I think he was miscast a bit the last couple of years. Pat Shurmur used him exclusively out of the slot. This group looking to use him out of the slot. I think he was miscast, and they finally found a way to put him in the right spot and then feed him the ball. The relationship with Russ wasn't there in training camp. It was all Cortland and Tim. And, Jerry Jeudy finally came on at the end. I think they were force-feeding him a little bit in that game, trying to get him to 1,000. But, it certainly felt like sort of a coming-out party for Jerry Jeudy a little bit, and that you can have confidence in the fact that he can be your number one going forward your number one X receiver going forward. And then, Cortland Sutton out of the slot, I thought he looked pretty good when they put him in the slot. He was on the outside for a little bit too. He looked good out there over at the Z. So, I think making some adjustments and just playing to the strength of your personnel has really shown a lot about the talent level of this team and how good it can be going forward if you're using them effectively.
Which is an important factor, and we're going to spend more time this week talking about the coaching search. Wanted to really dial in on the game today, but we'll spend more time this week talking about the coaching search. But you want to show whatever incoming coaching staff some of the talent that you have at your disposal. This team is largely coming back. They're going to make some decisions on some of the guys that are on expiring contracts. Certainly they need to add to the offensive line, but the point being is you saw some of the flashes from the guys that are going to be here in that game. And I think that was significant, especially when you're talking about a team that doesn't have all of its top draft picks, that is up against it a little bit in the cap. They're not in bad cap shape, but they're not in unbelievable like the Chicago Bears cap shape.
100 million or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So understanding that if you're trying to acquire one of the top level talent head coaches, you want to show them, hey, look, you could walk in here and this is a roster that just really needs the right coach to put him over the top.
Yeah, and I think you did. I think you showed that you have a bedrock of talent here. I think that you showed what the problem was. And, Russell Wilson being hurt earlier in the year, the coaching not being what it needed, I think that showcased for everybody that those are the things. If Russ can get healthy and you get the right coaching in here, I think this team has as good a shot as any. I mean, they played Kansas City tough. The Rams blowout notwithstanding, I thought they had a pretty good final 5 games of the season, down the stretch on things. So I think that's got to be a positive note, especially that Chargers game. I think it's got to be a positive note going forward.
100% with you. I want to give a couple more shout outs for this game. Again, I love the fact they were able to close in front of their fans, put together a good performance. We had said that we just want to see a team that's out there playing competent and a team out there that is going to play with some energy. And I think for the most part, they did that. I thought it got off to a little bit of a slow start on the defensive side of the ball, but they really battled back. I want to give a shout out to Jaquan McMillan, who played 100% of the snaps. He came in because Damari Mathis wasn't available. Of course, our guy, Ronald Darby, is not available either. And he comes in and he has to play 100% of the snaps in his first start. And I thought he battled the entire time.
He looked good, and they robbed him of an interception.
They absolutely robbed him of an interception. And he, like I said, I mean, how do you go to replay and change that call? But I don't know, it's called incomplete on the field, so maybe that's what it was. Anyways, that being said, I thought he really balled out. Again, continue to be impressed by Alex Singleton. I had a chance to chat with Josie Jewell a little bit after the game, and Josie really likes Alex Singleton as well. I think you sort of found something there. Of course, Jonas Griffith will eventually come back. You'll probably have him into the mix. But there's some guys out there that I really thought they played like they wanted to play hard for the fans. They played like they wanted to play hard for each other. And despite the fact that it was a 4-win team getting into it, I thought they played like a team that felt like they should have been better all along.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this team is better than their record. I think they could have been better if they were doing some of these things to begin with, and I feel like they just couldn't make the Russell Wilson Nathaniel Hackett marriage work. I just feel like that both were kind of at odds with what they wanted, and whoever you think was driving the boat on that one, it wasn't working. And so when they went back to, hey, we know this worked for you, Russ. When they went back to that, all of a sudden it did work. And so I think next year, whomever is coming in here, I think needs to have an eye on that and say, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel with Russell Wilson. This is what he does at an elite level. Let's continue to do that.
Okay. So now at 5-12, the Broncos enter into the offseason. They're going to be looking for a head coach. Certainly, just a very quick preview of that. They are expected to meet with Jim Harbaugh virtually on Zoom this week. They put in a request for DeMeco Ryans, request for Raheem Morris, the DC, out in L.A. with the Rams. Sean Payton at some point post January 17th. And I feel like Dan Quinn. And Dan Quinn's the other one. So those are the first 5 out of the gate.
Yeah, there should be 6 there total. So we're missing a name. Harbaugh. Obviously, you said Jero Evero will get an interview.
Evero, that's the one I missed.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good mix. You got 2 offensive guys, 2 defensive guys, 2 guys who have done both. You've got 3 minority candidates, 3 white candidates. I mean, I think you've got a pretty good mix in terms of going around and looking at this stuff. I think there are candidates that would keep a Jero Evero on staff as a DC as well. I know Evero's going to interview in Houston. I don't know. Like I said, I think he's going to get some interviews. I don't think he's going to get a job this time, but he's very highly thought of, and the Broncos want him to get a head coaching job because they're going to get draft picks back when he does, thanks to the new rule. So that's I think part of the situation that's that's going on here. I look forward. I think it's a balanced search. They may add a name or two after this, but I don't think there's too many more names they're going to add to the list.
So that was my question: is do we think that's kind of the meat of it? Because last year they did 10.
Yeah, you might get a Jim Caldwell. You might get a Shane Steichen interview. I think that's
but not like a Ben Johnson.
Maybe. I doubt it, though, simply because they want experience, and Steichen would be the one guy without experience aside from Ryans, who I don't know that that's a serious candidate for the job.
I like D'Amico Ryans, though, man.
I love D'Amico Ryans. I just don't know that he's
number one scoring defense this year. 49ers are just absolutely balling out. They put in Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback, and they have just been dominating teams. Even when they got down yesterday, I was just like,
they'll come back.
No doubt about it. No worries.
They're pretty good.
They're pretty good. Exactly. Yeah, no, I like the group they put together, and I think there's a lot of upside there. There's a higher floor too for most of these candidates. That I think that's one of the things I'm very excited about.
Yeah, and I really do think that the next hire needs to be a culture changer. I mean, you got to have the adults in the room. So.
Yep. All right. Well, there you go. We'll obviously spend some more time this week talking about the coaching search for Benjamin Allbright. I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.
You can stand up and salute in Denver, and you got the world champions that live in your town.